And that brings me to the next topic, which is the gear system. And it's a very interesting thing because it tells us that these sequences, although the universe or the human matrix pattern is this what we talked about, these two sequences. It tells us that inside of us we have this dynamic sequence, or we have kind of a bigger gear and a smaller gear. So let's think of a big gear that has 20 seals, and then we have a smaller gear that has 13 tones, and inside of it it's kind of making the configurations, and it's giving you the different patterns, and that is us. And then we are connecting, that's us, and are connecting to this other pattern, this other sequence, which is our life. And then the lives of others are intertwining into this grander sequence, which is us, and together we make another sequence and another sequence. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that this gear system, or this gear concept, is that we're all the sequence, or this pattern that's unfolding within each other, and then unfolding together as individuals, and then together as individuals as this humanity. So I see sort of that we're the cells, the individual is the cell. Then the collective starts to be, our individual relationships are like the organs. And then, the higher structures, the higher organizations are the organisms, they're the bodies, not just the organ, but the full body. So in a way, it tells us that we act in that way. And I use these, and like, you're a scientist, and you you see another system to understand this system. You copy it. You try to understand, if this is this way, then this kind of mirrors that and sees it in another way. So I see that this is the same. Not only are we in this magical mosaic or play of cycles, but we also participate in these cycles. So that's and it, I like it because it all in the end falls back on us, and falls back on how we do our lives, how we live our lives, and how we conform our lives in a way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most exciting things that's happened during my scientific career was the Human Genome Project, and this is sort of what you're talking about. When we find out just how related we all are, and I remember when it started. I remember Francis Collins, he's one of my heroes. That on the project, I followed Francis the whole time they were developing it, um, and I was at it. I was at a big meeting, a big science meeting, where the magazine called Science, we were given a pre-release copy at this big meeting, and in it was a thing that you could fold out and make a big poster for it was huge, a huge poster. You had to have a big wall to put in but it was the whole human genome.
Okay.
The first time they did it. Okay. And it was at this meeting, and everybody just went off, and I mean, it's just real quiet because everybody was like, they did it, they like totally different, they totally did it. And I've still got that magazine. It's a beautiful, they have a great front on that magazine, and I still have, it's folded away. I don't have it stayed on my office wall until I retired. Okay.
Well,
And
you have to, that's a collector's item.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, now there's a lot more stuff that's filled in, because at that time there was a lot that was not, and we're filling in more, almost daily or hourly in some cases, of things that are there that are, but we've learned, a lot of things that we didn't know even back then. I mean, epigenetics has now come on the scene, and we realize that, even identical twins, after and in utero, yes, they are, but once they're born, they're really no longer really identical, because there's changes going on in their genomes that it happens to one, it doesn't happen to the other, and all this different, stuff. But it's here again. It was and is a very exciting time to be alive. I'm part of the all of us study here in the United States, where Francis wants 1 million people to give them all of our data, and I do. I give them every time I go see a physician or have a test or whatever. It all goes. Every bit of information goes to them, and they have my genome, so that eventually, Santiago, I don't know if it'll happen during your lifetime, but I suspect it will happen during Leah and Luca's lifetime, your children, that when they go to the doctor and they are ill, they're going to be treated as the individual they are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That medicine will become very, very individualized. We already have some of that. One of the prime ones is children. It was found in adults that had leukemia, but then it was found in children. It's called the Philadelphia gene, and it means that for children that have that gene and have leukemia, it takes twice as much chemotherapeutic agent to get them in remission as a child that does not have it. Okay. So that's an example of us learning about things that could help, save people's, even literally their lives. But, during your children's lifetime, see, this is the thing that's so exciting. We're appreciating just how individual and yet how alike we all are. Okay. And that's what is so amazingly exciting on the gene, on the genomic type level.
Let me rephrase that, and I'll repeat that. You're finding out how alike and how individual we are at the same time. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's so, it is really, really, really exciting. And, I know that science may not be a lot of people's hot topic, but it can be a really phenomenal career. And it is, I love my career. I love doing it. It is very exciting. You meet just so, I mean, there are amazing people the world over in many, many disciplines. And I have met a few. But studying science now in the age that we're in, with the changes in cosmology, the web, with the Genome Project, with all of these things that we've taken such giant leaps within my lifetime. Okay, I've seen this. It's just been, I'm very grateful to have been in the time that I've been allowed. So but I'm going to leave it to you guys to continue on and do good stuff.
Well, we still want to have you a long time, Margie. There's still a lot of knowledge that you can share, but it's interesting how we're seeing, how this is and the whole point of the divine within is finding this divine spark within us, and that even in something as mundane as science, because I don't want to classify it as mundane. And I think that you as a scientist, you see it completely different. And I love the way that you also get the concepts, that although there's a mathematic to it, a pattern to it, there's a volition, the human volition involved. This is the most important thing about it, that we're not an accident, and that's what sometimes we see science, they're explaining this accident that we are. And what you're saying, and what a lot of scientists are saying, and now that, especially with this new technology, is that we're exactly the opposite as of a fluke, of an accident. We're basically a the wildest conception that you can imagine, complication that you can imagine. And that's something that I realized when my wife got pregnant from my first daughter, and that's something that I mention a lot. It was the first time I saw myself in that sequence of life, that my cell was going to be a human being. And suddenly you go to the first ultrasound and you just see a bunch of cells. you know, not a real figure, or nothing to write home about. And suddenly, as the time goes by, you suddenly get to the last month, and it's a whole human being, and suddenly it comes out. And I remember one of the things that I would ask myself: what would her eyes be, her color of her hair, those details that before it's just in a possibility. We're talking about possibilities and actuals, and suddenly she's born, and that's an actual. Another thing that it's just to finish this part, that I realized and this happened with my last daughter, my third daughter. Not that didn't happen with my first two children. When we come into the hospital, you don't know this, but I know women go and give birth, but we men are in the background doing all the paperwork. You don't see that doesn't come out, but there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of paper signing. You don't know what they're putting in front of you, so you have to be with a cool head, and you're registering, so they register that your wife, and you go into labor, and you go through that process, and it probably takes a whole day. And then suddenly they call me and they tell me, you have to register your daughter. It's like, yes, when I came in there, it was just me and my wife. And now there's another human being there that I have to register as a patient in the hospital that before did not exist, so that dawned on me. It didn't dawn on me before in the previous children, but it's something very magical. Suddenly now somebody exists. And when you see it in that way, and you see science in this way, you find the divine within, right?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. You totally, um, see, I mean, there have been some really great scientists in this country and in other parts of the world who have now, since the 1990s, been saying that the physical parameters for life to exist within the cosmos that we know, the physical universe as we know it, is so small. If you look at all the conditions out there, but where life exists is so small. And of course, now we're finding it on many planets because we know what to look for. Okay. And we have the ability to look. But there is a reason for this very narrow area for life to flourish, to exist. And it wasn't an accident. It was, and that's what they're saying is that, I mean, and these are like really big name scientists. They're going, this cannot be an accident. Okay. This is not order coming out of chaos spontaneously.
Yeah.
This is an actual thing. And so it's like you saw your daughter or your children first as sort of what, just kind of a mass of cells, and you'd sort of say, oh, well, that's not. But of course, to creation, to God, that was already your child. They already
Yeah. Yeah.
recognized that as your child. But you got to the point to where, when you were told you had to register a new human being, you were like, wait a minute, two have become three. Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
pattern.
Exactly.
Okay. It's just exactly
Exactly.
like we talked
Exactly.
about before. Okay. It was that the guy, God and the son, and they all of a sudden had the spirit. Okay. And so it's just it's pattern. You experience that
You're in
same
that
pattern.
sequence. You're in that progression
Right.
that we were talking
You're
about.
in that experience in this very narrow physical space that we know is out there all over now because we found it. And this is happening all over, and there's no accident to it. Okay. And it just speaks more to, you know at least what I consider the divine within me. It 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 makes me joyful. It makes me grateful. That I have been given this opportunity to experience this. Okay. That I have been gifted with the opportunity to make choices and decisions and participate in the development of humankind and humanity. And this is, I say this in all with all gratitude that I'm glad to. I mean, if you want to talk about chosen, I feel like you're chosen to be Santiago, and Margie was chosen to be Margie.
Of
And
course.
we're very, we're very lucky. We have like won the jackpot.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to have had to hear Margie. I mean, it's a topic that we can spend hours and days
Yeah,
and go through all the rabbit holes. But what I take from this is that there is something more than just random patterns. There is a sequence, a purpose to these patterns, to these cycles, and that we are part of these. And that's the other part, that not only do we understand them, but do we also participate in them, and like in any game, the more that you know about the game, the more you play the game, the more you will be good at the game, more you will enjoy the game. And I think that's with life. We have to understand these patterns, and it's not just what we're talking about of growing old. We all understand of what growing old is, but growing in wisdom, growing in intelligence, growing in spirit. What does that mean, and what does that entail? Right?
absolutely. I'm right there with you, Santiago.
Well, thanks a
We
lot,
all just
Margie.
want to, yeah, just keep hopefully doing the right thing and following the divine within us. That we with every person, every fellow that we meet.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing. Okay, they're doing the exact same thing.
And
So
when we understand that, we find that brother in the inside of us, that we're all striving for that, and we all have that divine within and divine connection.
right, right, absolutely. Well, this has been a joy. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Margie, and hopefully this is just the first of many topics and things that we're going to be talking about. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And to all the viewers that have been with us, if you like this program, please remember to subscribe, like, share, comment with people. Tell them there was these two people talking about these interesting things, and you should listen to it and share. I think that's the most important way to promote this. But thank you for your time. Thank you, Margie, once again, and thank you all of you that are watching. This is Santiago Kneeland, the divine within, and take care of yourselves and carpe diem.